June 13th, 1944, 040 hours. Bethnal Green, East London, England. The night air hangs heavy with the damp chill of the Thames. Street lamps dimmed under blackout curtains that do little to hide the scars of the Blitz. You can almost hear the distant hum, first a low, pulsating drone like an angry hornet, growing louder, cutting through the silence of wartime curfew. Mrs. Eileen Harris stirs in her Anderson shelter, heart seizing as the sound builds to a roar overhead. The V-1 buzz bomb streaks low, its pulsed jet engine throbbing erratically, flame trailing from the exhaust like a comet's tail. No siren wails in time. This new devil comes without warning. The engine cuts out suddenly, dead silence, the glide of death. Then impact. The explosion rips through Grove Road, crumpling homes into rubble, flames licking the sky as screams pierce the dust cloud. Harris claws her way out, ears ringing, to find neighbors buried alive. This is Hitler's vengeance weapon, the V-1, pilotless terror raining from Peenemoon's launch ramps across the channel. In the chaos, air raid wardens scramble with torches, pulling survivors from the wreckage. The V-1 Doodlebug buzz bomb flies at 400 miles per hour, too fast for fighters to catch consistently, too low for predictable anti-aircraft fire. Timed fuses on A shells detonate too soon or too late, shrapnel harmlessly scattering. That first night, 4 reach London. Soon, hundreds launch daily. Churchill's war cabinet convenes in bunker urgency, casualty projections grim, thousands dead, morale cracking under renewed Blitz horror. RF Spitfires tip them mid-air with wing clips, but it's desperate, dangerous. Ground guns blaze blindly, success rates abysmal, 1 in 50 at best. The city holds its breath for each drone. Across the Atlantic, in the shadowed labs of the Applied Physics Laboratory in Silver Spring, Maryland, physicist Merle Tuve pores over urgent cables from London. His face, gaunt under fluorescent hum, reflects the weight of secrets. Tuve, a Carnegie Institution geophysicist turned wartime innovator, heads Section T of the Office of Scientific Research and Development. Since August 1940, when Vannevar Bush Roosevelt's science czar tapped him to crack the proximity-fuzed riddle, Tuve's team has toiled in secrecy. The radical idea, miniaturize a radar transmitter into an artillery shell's nose, broadcasting radio waves that bounce off targets, triggering detonation at optimal proximity. No more guesswork with timed or contact fuses. But in 1940 it seemed impossible, vacuum tubes fragile as eggshells, batteries unreliable in sub-zero skies, the whole assembly surviving 20,000 Gs of gun acceleration. Tuve's motivation burns personal. Our moral responsibility goes all the way to the final battle, he posts on lab walls, driving engineers relentlessly. I don't want any damn fool in this laboratory to save money. I only want him to save time. Recruited talents like James Van Allen forge miniature glass tubes that withstand barrel spin, while battery wizards from National Carbon concoct cells enduring -50°F to 100°F. Early tests at Dahlgren proving ground falter. Fuses dud. Detonate prematurely. But on January 29, 1942, a breakthrough 52% success in 5-inch naval shells shredding drone targets mid-air. Production ramps secretly, Crossley, RCA, Sylvania churn components. Assembly lines guarded like Fort Knox, the fuse codenamed VT for variable time debuts in combat. January 5, 1943, aboard USS Helena in the Pacific. A Japanese Aichi D-3 Aval bomber dives on the cruiser. 5-inch guns bark, shells bursting in air burst 70 yards wide. Shrapnel rips the plane apart, no direct hit needed. Admiral William Halsey cables Washington. The proximity fuse is a war winner, restricted to naval use at first, lest Germans capture and copy it. But as V-1 South terrorized London in summer 1944, Churchill pleads with Roosevelt, release the secret for ground AAA. Bush approves modifications. Tuve's team races to adapt for British 3.7-inch and US 90mm guns, tuning sensitivity for small, fast V-1 South. By mid-July, 500 guns line the Channel coast, fuses airlifted in Lancaster bombers. Gunners like Sergeant Arthur Clark of the Royal Artillery load the new rounds, skeptical. The first V-1 approaches, drone echoing over Dover cliffs. Fire! Shells arc skyward, but instead of distant puffs, explosions bloom precisely around the bomb. It tumbles in flames. Kill rates climb, 24% first week, 46% second. Londoners cheer mid-air fireworks, dubbing them flying gas mains exploding, but as rates hit 67%, the Germans adapt, launching lower, faster. Tuve faces a crisis. Can his brainchild evolve fast enough to end the nightmare, or will the buzz of terror drown out Allied hopes? August 27, 1944. Dawn over the Kentish Cliffs, near Dover, England. Salt wind whips across the gun positions of the 139th Anti-Aircraft Brigade Royal Artillery. Sergeant Arthur Clark stamps his boots against the cold, breath fogging as he helps load the 3.7-inch gun. The barrels gleam with dew, pointed skyward like accusing fingers. Radar operators in the nearby predictor hut call out bearings, another wave inbound from the Pas-de-Calais. The drone starts faint, then swells into that familiar, hated pulse. 5 V-1 South crests the horizon, skimming low over the channel, engine sputtering blue flame. You can feel the tension in the battery, gunners tense at their wheels, fuse setters frozen. These are no ordinary shells in the ready racks. Painted olive drab with a discreet red band near the nose, they carry Tuve's secret VT fuses tuned for the small, fast signature of a buzz bomb. No more mechanical clocks ticking down altitude, these shells think. Clark's crew slams the breech shut. Fire! The gun recoils with a thunderous crack, 4 rounds arcing skyward in rapid succession. Trajectories plotted by SCR-584 radar fed automatically to the predictor. The first shell bursts 50 yards ahead of the lead V-1 too soon. Shrapnel peppers empty air. Second shell, closer but still a miss. Third, perfect. A blossom of orange and black erupts directly beneath the flying bomb. The Doppler shift triggers at 70 feet, warhead detonating in a cone of steel fragments. The 5-1's wing shears clean off, fuel tank rupturing in a fireball that tumbles into the sea. The battery erupts in cheers raw, disbelieving. Fourth shell claims another as the wave scatters. Word flashes along the gun belt, the 200-mile arc of AA defenses from Eastbourne to Harwich. Kill rates leap overnight, from 17% in July with conventional timed fuses to 54% by late August, then 79% as crews master the new rounds. Londoners, huddled in tube stations, begin to notice the change. The nightly drone is punctuated more often by mid-air explosions, bright flashes lighting the clouds like premature dawn. Newspapers, censored but hopeful, report heavy losses inflicted on robot aircraft. At the Applied Physics Lab, Merle Tuve receives frantic cables from British liaison officers. Production can't keep up. Sylvania and RCA factories run 3 shifts, women in hairnets assembling thyrotrons and rugged tubes under magnifying lamps. Each fuse costs $732 expensive, but one VT shell equals dozens of timed rounds in effectiveness. Tuve pushes for more. Sensitivity tweaks to catch lower flying bombs, safety circuits to prevent premature bursts over friendly territory. But the Germans notice too. Oberst Max Wachtel, commanding Flak Regiment 155, W, at Calais, pores over launch logs. Success rates plummet from 70% reaching London to under 20%. Reconnaissance Spitfires photograph sites. Allied bombers pound them relentlessly. Wachtel orders night launches, lower altitudes, erratic courses. Some V-1 South skim at 200 feet, hugging treetops. Radar struggles to track. Guns lose visual acquisition. Kill rates dip again. In September, Allied armies overrun the launch sites in France. The buzz stops for a moment, London exhales. Pubs fill with cautious celebration. But intelligence warns of new ramps in Holland, longer range, pointing at Antwerp, now the vital port feeding Patton's dash across Europe. Tuve's team ships crates across the Atlantic again, this time for Belgian gun crews. The shield must move with the front. And in the quiet of his Maryland office, Tuve stares at a captured V-1 fragment warhead shredded by VT shrapnel. His radical idea, born in 1940 sketches, has already saved thousands of lives, but the war grinds on. 5-2 ballistic missiles begin falling, untouchable by any fuse. and whispers reach Ossard of something even deadlier brewing in Peenemund caves. Tuve knows the proximity-fuse's greatest test still lies ahead, not in the skies over London, but in the inferno of the Pacific. October 25, 1944, 07:00 hours. Off Samar Island, Philippine Sea, the dawn sky is a bruised purple, heavy with tropical humidity that clings to flight decks like a shroud. Vice Admiral Thomas Sprague's escort carriers, call sign Taffy 3, steam in loose formation, launching Hellcats and Avengers against Japanese land targets ashore. Then lookouts scream the impossible, masts on the horizon, battleships, Yamato's towering pagoda superstructure, cruisers, destroyers, the center force under Admiral Takeo Kurita, thought crippled days earlier, bearing down at 30 knots. You can taste the panic, klaxons blaring, pilots scrambling back to cockpits, deck crews shoving bombs overboard to make room for fighters. The jeep carriers, slow, thinly armored, turn away under smoke, zigzagging desperately. Japanese 18-inch shells straddle the water, geysers erupting like volcanoes. USS Gambier Bay takes hits, fires raging. Destroyers like Johnston and Hull charge suicidally, torpedoes away, guns blazing defiance. But high overhead, something new enters the fray. The 5-inch, 38 guns of the escort carriers and screening destroyers elevate skyward, not at ships, but at the swarm of Japanese aircraft now diving in support. Zero fighters escort Vals and Jills loaded with bombs and torpedoes. Kamikazes among them, pilots intent on crashing decks. Gunners track frantically, but range is long, closure fast. Conventional time fuses would waste hundreds of rounds. Instead, the proximity-fuse's VT rounds rushed aboard in September come into their own. Commander Ernest Evans on Johnston orders, "Commence firing." The twin 5-inch mounts roar, shells streaking upward in flat trajectories. No waiting for altitude guesses. As a Val dives on Fanshawe Bay, shells burst in lethal clusters 70 yards out, shrapnel cones shredding wings, engines, cockpits. The dive bomber tumbles, exploding harmlessly astern. Another Jill approaches Gambier Bay. 3 VT bursts tear it apart mid-dive. The sky fills with black puffs that actually kill. Aboard USS Kitkin Bay, Gunnery Officer Lieutenant Commander Richard Bollinger watches in awe through binoculars. They're exploding right on the money every time. Planes disintegrate without direct hits. Kill radius multiplies effectiveness tenfold, Japanese formation cohesion breaks. Survivors jettison bombs early, fleeing through the barrage. Kamikazes, committed to death, fly straight into the invisible wall fuselages ripped open before impact. The numbers tell the story. In 90 minutes of hell, Taffy 3's guns, firing mostly VT fuses, claim over 50 Japanese aircraft destroyed or driven off. Kurita, witnessing the carnage from Yamato's bridge, believes he faces a full fleet carrier force. The rain of accurate lethal fire unnerves him. At 0911, inexplicably, he orders retreat, turning away from annihilation of the American invasion fleet at Leyte. Historians later call it the miracle of Samar. 6 jeep carriers, 3 destroyers, 4 destroyer escorts against the mightiest surface force left in the Imperial Navy, and they win. Merle Tuve receives the after-action reports weeks later, classified top secret. Casualty ratios astonish. 1 VT shell equals 20 to 30 conventional and aircraft kills. Pacific Fleet demands priority shipment. Production surges past 2 million units by war's end. But the ultimate test looms, Okinawa, where kamikaze hordes will throw themselves in waves unseen before. In his lab, Tuve allows himself a rare smile reading Evans' citation posthumous Navy Cross for Johnston's captain. The fragile tubes, the batteries, the radical Doppler circuits they held under centrifugal hell, tropical heat, salt corrosion. One scientist's impossible dream, born in peacetime labs, now shields sailors from divine wind. Yet as 1944 ends, darker clouds gather, suicide attacks escalating, islands turning into abattoirs. The fuse has saved fleets, cities, lives, but can it withstand the final fanatical onslaught? April 6, 1945, 1400 hours. Radar picket station north of Okinawa. The destroyer USS Newcomb pitches in heavy swells, white caps breaking over her bow as lookouts strain against binoculars. Captain Frank Fleming paces the bridge, eyes fixed on the horizon. Intelligence warned of it. Kaikasui No won the first massed kamikaze operation. Over 350 aircraft, Navy and Army, escorted by Zeros, launched from Kyushu in a desperate bid to smash the invasion fleet. The sky darkens with them. You can feel the dread settle like lead. The first wave crests the radar screen at 60 miles, closing fast. General quarters blares. Gun crews race to stations, stripping to the waist in the tropical heat. Ammo trains haul 5-inch VT rounds from magazines' red-banded noses glinting. Director operators lock SCR 584 radars onto the swarm. Combat Air Patrol Hellcats from carriers farther out engage first, splashing dozens, but hundreds more leak through. The first kamikaze valve fixed for suicide dives on Newcomb from astern. 40mm Bofors chatter, tracers arcing. Too late. It crashes the aft stack, 500-pound bomb detonating in a fireball that buckles decks. But as flames rage, more come. A Judy streaks low from port, guns winking. The 5-inch mounts swing, VT fuses armed. Commence firing. Shells burst in lethal clouds, 70-yard kill zones, shredding the attacker 200 yards out. Wings fold, it cartwheels into the sea. Across the picket line, the same scene repeats in hellish symphony. USS Bush takes multiple hits, sinking slowly. USS Colquhoun rolls over under repeated crashes. But the VT fuses turn the sky into a gauntlet. Destroyers like Lafayette, called the ship that would not die, faced 22 separate attacks in 80 minutes. Her guns, loaded almost exclusively with proximity rounds, claim 9 direct kills, damaging a dozen more. Shrapnel cones rip fuselages, ignite fuel tanks, shear control surfaces. Kamikazes explode mid-air or tumble harmlessly, pilots denied their fatal embrace. Merle Tuve, reading dispatches in Washington, sees the numbers, over 50% of kamikaze kills credited to V-fused 5-inch fire. One shell, one burst, one plane, sometimes 2 or 3 in a single detonation. Fleet Admiral Chester Nimitz cables SyncPack. The proximity fuse has proven itself the most effective countermeasure against suicide attacks. Production hits 400,000 units per month. Every destroyer, cruiser, battleship in the fleet loads magazines heavy with them. The Tenkai Kasui operations unfold through April, May, June, nearly 4,000 sorties total. Pilots, many barely trained, fly obsolescent aircraft straight into the wall. The fuses never tire, never flinch. At night, star shells with VT illuminate the darkness, bursting among low-level intruders. On May 11th, off Okinawa, the carrier Bunker Hill takes 2 hits despite the barrage Admiral Mark Mitcher nearly killed but her screen. Claims 36 attackers downed, most by proximity bursts. By July, the toll is staggering. Over 1,900 kamikaze aircraft destroyed, half by VT fuses alone. The fleet endures. Amphibious operations continue, Marines and Army grind ashore. Japan's divine wind scatters like chaff. Hirohito's advisors whisper the truth: the Americans have an invisible shield no sacrifice can pierce. In his quiet lab, Tuve contemplates the final reports. His invention, born from a radical spark in 1940, nurtured through years of failure and breakthrough, has shielded cities, saved fleets, turned terror weapons into scrap. London breathes free, Lady holds, Okinawa falls. And when the Enola Gay lifts off from Tinian in August, carrying a different kind of secret, the proximity fuse rides shotgun in her defensive turrets. One scientist, one impossible idea. A war shortened, lives spared beyond counting. The buzz bombs fall silent. The divine wind dies. And in the silence that follows, the world steps back from the abyss.